Each generation has that guy. Hopefully one day people will look back and say, Nick Calathes is that guy for our generation.
Nicholas William Calathes, born February 7th, 1989. There's a strange kind of spotlight that shines on All-American guards. It doesn't just highlight their talent, it casts long shadows of expectation, especially when you're 6'6", the son of a former pro athlete and the floor general for a storied SEC program. By the end of his sophomore year at Florida, Nick Calathes had checked every box you'd expect of a future NBA star. He was one of the most productive point guards in the country, already drawing comparisons to European greats, and scouts praised his basketball IQ like it came from a higher plane. The NBA was calling, but Calathes didn't answer. Not right away. Instead, he made one of the most surprising pivots of any American-born player in modern basketball history. At just 20 years old, Nick Calathes chose to begin his pro career in Greece. Not because he wasn't good enough, but because even in his prime, it seemed he understood something most young players don't figure out until it's too late. The NBA doesn't reward your talent if it doesn't fit its mold, and Nick Calathes never did. He wasn't fast, he wasn't explosive, his jumper looked like it was built in a basement, and though his height stood out, his body language never screamed superstar. What he did do was pass the hell out of the ball. Think Kyle Anderson if he spoke fluent pick and roll. But in a league that favors flash over feel and vertical over vision, Calathes became expendable. His 2-year NBA stint with the Memphis Grizzlies was unmemorable at best, serviceable stats but zero real momentum, and by 2015 he'd had enough proving himself to a league that had no real interest in who he was. So he returned overseas, and that's where the real legend began. He became a EuroLeague icon, one of the best facilitators of his generation, a multiple-time Greek League champion, and a player whose career, while mostly ignored in America, stands as proof that success doesn't always wear an NBA jersey. Nick Calathes' growth wasn't stunted because he failed, it was stunted because the system he was born into couldn't recognize a different kind of greatness. What happened? Let's talk about it. Salute to my man K Platt Jr. on IG for this request. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Let's get it. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Nick Calathes is a 6'6" Greek-American point guard born in Castleberry, Florida. The younger brother of former Florida standout and pro player Pat Calathes, Nick carved out his own legacy early, becoming a McDonald's All-American and the 2007 Florida Mr. Basketball. At the University of Florida, he averaged 16.2 points and 6.3 assists over 2 seasons and was named SEC Player of the Year by the league's coaches as a sophomore. Known for his size, poise, and court vision, Calathes was projected as a high-level NBA prospect, but surprised many by signing with Greek powerhouse Panathinaikos before the 2009 draft. He was still selected 45th overall by the Minnesota Timberwolves, with his rights eventually traded to Memphis. Calathes spent 4 years overseas before finally joining the NBA in 2013. But despite glimpses, his style never quite fit, and by 2015 he returned to Europe, where his real career took off. Stunt number 1, his game didn't translate to the NBA. Nick Calathes was always a system player, just not the system the NBA was running. At Florida, he thrived in a motion-heavy offense that gave him the keys to the team. Surrounded by spacing and freedom, his creativity as a passer turned average possessions into highlight plays. But the league he stepped into in 2013 wasn't built for guards like him. The NBA had shifted into a high-octane pace and space game dominated by athletic, score-first guards. And Calathes, with his slow foot speed and flat jumper, couldn't keep up. He was a 6'6" playmaker who couldn't blow by defenders or shoot them off. His unorthodox release lacked range or quickness, which let defenders sag off and clog passing lanes. On defense, he struggled laterally, and without elite speed or strength, he became an easy target in switches. In Memphis, a team built on grit and grind defense and methodical half-court offense, he had moments, but they weren't enough. It wasn't that he was bad, he simply wasn't dynamic enough to earn the leash NBA teams give to raw athletes or lottery picks. As a second rounder already in his mid-20s, he was expected to contribute right away. And while he did average over 4 assists in 20 minutes per game during his rookie year, the flaws in his game limited his role. When Memphis added other backcourt pieces and he failed to expand his offensive impact, he quietly faded to the back of the rotation. The NBA doesn't wait long to make up its mind on players like Nick Calathes. If you're not elite at something or wildly athletic, you better be able to shoot, and he couldn't. The same cerebral game that made him elite in Europe made him expendable in the league. And once that became clear, his NBA future was already behind him. Stunt number 2, he left the NBA before it was ready for him. Sometimes timing is everything, and Nick Calathes showed up in the NBA just a few years too early. Today, players like Tyus Jones, TJ McConnell, and even a younger version of Josh Giddey are praised for their feel, size, and ability to run an offense without needing to score 25 a night. But in 2013, that type of guard wasn't celebrated. Back then, the league was still obsessed with athletic explosiveness, isolation scorers, and guards who could shoot the lights out or break down defenders one-on-one. Calathes offered none of that. He was a throwback, or maybe just ahead of his time. Had he entered the league even 5 years later, his floor game might have found a better home. His vision was elite. He had a natural calm under pressure. He could run a team, control pace, and squeeze passes into impossible windows. But the league didn't know what to do with a 6'6" guard who didn't hunt his shot and couldn't shoot from distance when forced to. And more importantly, Calathes didn't wait around for the NBA to figure it out. After 2 underwhelming seasons in Memphis, he made the conscious decision, returned to Greece where his game was understood, respected, and most of all, wanted. It wasn't a desperate move, it was an escape. In the EuroLeague, Calathes wasn't just a role player, he became the engine. He led the league in assists multiple times, won championships, and carved out a decade-long career at the highest level of international basketball. The kind of career he never would have been allowed to have in the NBA. So while it's easy to say he didn't make it, the truth is more complicated. Nick Calathes left the NBA, but not because he wasn't good enough. He left because the league wasn't yet built to recognize his kind of value. Stunt number 3, his identity was always more Greek than NBA. Nick Calathes may have been born and raised in Florida, but in basketball identity, he was never fully American. His father was Greek, his passport was dual, and the way he played the game, slower, smarter, more pass first, was built more for the idea of basketball in Europe than in the States. Even in college, there was a sense that he saw the game through a European lens. He rarely forced shots, he worked angles, he lived in the pocket between athleticism and anticipation, where rhythm matters more than speed. In the NBA, that approach makes you a specialist. In Europe, it makes you a star. When he signed with Panathinaikos before even entering the NBA, it was more than a contract, it was a statement. This was someone who wasn't afraid to walk a different path, and deep down, maybe he never believed the NBA was his final destination. He played for Greece in international tournaments, he spoke the language, he embraced the culture, and unlike most American-born players who treat overseas contracts like exile, Calathes belonged there. That sense of belonging fueled his longevity. He wasn't just good in Europe, he was elite. He became the EuroLeague's assist leader, helped Panathinaikos and Barcelona stay at the top, and earned all league honors along the way. He played with poise, led grown man locker rooms, and remained relevant well into his 30s. Not many players who leave the NBA can say the same. But in America, his name faded. He wasn't flashy enough to be remembered, and didn't stay long enough to be missed. And maybe that's okay, because what Nick Calathes found in Europe was more than a second chance. It was the stage he always needed. One that respected feel over flash, substance over sizzle, and for once didn't ask him to become someone he wasn't just to survive. All in all, Nick Calathes represents a rare kind of basketball story. One that didn't fail, but simply didn't fit. He had the size, the skill, the resume, and the opportunity. But when the NBA didn't bend to his style, he didn't chase validation where it wasn't coming. He went where his game was valued, and in doing so, built a legacy that most players only dream of. It may not have come with shoe deals, primetime commercials, or all-star nods, but it came with longevity, championships, and respect. Not every path has to lead through the NBA to be successful, and not every stunted growth means a life unfinished. Sometimes a player just needs a different garden. For Nick Calathes, Greece was that place, and in the end, he didn't just survive the fall from the NBA dream, he redefined what success looked like after it. Salute, respect, it's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.